Hello, and welcome to the Radical Life podcast. I'm Marina Patrice Vare. My pronouns are they, them, and MP, and I am recording today on the unceded lands of the Lenni Lenape peoples. Today, I'll be introducing you to our stretch module leader, Gururaj Singh Khalsa. Gururaj is a Kundalini Research Institute certified Kundalini yoga trainer and Ashtanga yoga practitioner. Post-graduation, Gururaj has been working with human rights and social psychology for over 10 years for the federal government of Brazil, where he lives. Gururaj believes that the physical body is a great vehicle and teacher for living a full life and achieving emotional, mental, and spiritual balance. Thank you so much for joining me, Gururaj. I would love if you would start by telling us where you are located today, and then also sharing what identities and communities are important to you.
Thank you so much, MP. I am Gururaj. My pronoun is he, his, him. But actually, I will answer if you call me. I am pretty comfortable with all pronouns. I am here in Brazil. I am in Salvador. It's a city famous for the Carnival party here in Brazil. Is like a place. Is the place outside Africa that has more influence of the African continent, um, and it's like the most black city out of Africa. So being here and living here as a child, and I was born here too, make me uh, have contact with this part of our lineage in Brazil that most of white people here in Brazil doesn't have. So it's pretty nice to be back here. I lived in Brasilia, the capital of Brazil, for more than 16 years. Because I was I still work for Brazilian government, but I'm not have to be there anymore. That's why I can to live here. And also, I am living right now for like a month in the apartment that I used to live as a child. So it's it's kind of funny to to be here again. And I'm not sure what how go on.
We were just connecting right before we started recording, right, about what it's like to be back, in your childhood space. And I had said I imagined it was lovely, and you said it was a little strange. Do you want to share any more about that?
Yeah, it's lovely to be here. And I said that it's strange because I'm here for only 1 month, and I kind of in the mood of, oh, look what is still here. Oh, that thing that I used to go or I used to play with is not here anymore. So I'm kind of um, reintegrating with the neighborhood, like uh, not only with the things, but with people who are still living here in the same building or in the same neighborhood, people who are not here anymore. So I'm kind of discovering the thing. So it's strange and fun and exciting in the same way. So,
Yeah,
but I'm done.
I'm imagining it like visiting a new place, even though it is also an old place in your memory, and what it is like to reconcile those changes and also see new developments. So, yes.
Yeah, it ends a great. I think I have this kind of personality that always searching inside of me what is happening outside. So I when I see something that I used to like or I used to hate, I kind of investigating within myself what's happening here. So it's kind of visiting old places inside of me too, you know. So that's also fun and strange.
Yeah, I loved that image though. Yes, visiting old places inside of me, and agreed, when I visit those places in myself, I also feel like it's interesting and strange. So I appreciate that. We do appreciate that. Is there anything more that you want to share with us, specifically about your social location?
Yeah, sure. I First of all, I think that uh, thinking about our individual location, uh, when someone asks you who you are, you usually answer something like what we do, you know, especially for a living, and it kind of takes uh, some inner work to start to reflect about how our individualities or uh, things that are really constitutes of uh, who we are, and not only things that we do, you know. So uh, it was the place that I was at first when I heard the question, and um, I think that when I think about the community that I am with, I also think that the communities are a platform that we can discover our identities on that, and we kind of balance the things that we had inside of us, and it's innate to all of us to things that is important or is part of the community, and we have to discover to relate that to things to when we are living in community. So I think that it's super important to think uh, about that, to do the inner work that I was talking about, to reflect about our dance. I see myself as a white man because I live in Brazil, and as I said, I live in the most black city outside of Africa, so I'm pretty white here. But you know, when I go to US, for example, people can see me as Latin, and relate to me as a Latin guy, not white. So some social occasion makes me feel um, not uncomfortable, but uncomfortable to think about that, because I used to relate to some some how can I say it, some things that many people uh, um, are fighting for to have the right, you know. And I was judging myself. Why are you, you know, relate to that if you're not in that social location, the social place. And after educate myself, after reading, for example, bell hooks, I start to see that many of aspects of a social location relates to the pain, the angry, the the emotions that goes to the surface when people start to talk about it, to to relate to that emotion, and that's what connects us, you know. And uh, I'm not sure if you're hoping to me answer where I am. Is at myself as a gay guy from Brazil. Here I'm white. Somehow I am Latin too, and I am able-bodied. After maybe if for a kind of yoga teacher, especially who practice a lot of physical movements, physical activities, are not as uh, not how can I say, people who work a lot I forgot the name in English, but I some expected me to be. So I think some of the people have a little frustration when I say that I am a yoga teacher because in somehow I don't look like I don't have the body for that people expect uh, to a yoga teacher, and I'm not sure what I can add to that.
No, I think
I, I
that's great, and you shared a lot in there. There are two things that I'll pull out. One is that I heard that your social location or the perception of your social location shifts depending on your geographic location. So that where you are in Brazil, you are very much perceived as a white person, and then when you are in places like the US, you're perceived as a Latin person, right? And it is a different experience in terms of privilege depending on where you are, which I think is just a useful thing for folks to think about that maybe are not moving between international spaces. So thanks for sharing that and offering that perspective. The other piece that I heard there and that I personally really resonate and relate to is this idea that like there's some magical yoga body that like we're supposed to be in if we teach yoga. And so the idea that you should be super fit and look, very like buff, right? And like that is the one and only way to be, I'm a yoga therapist. I'm in a larger body and I also live with a chronic illness that impacts my mobility at times. And so I very much relate to this idea of, I don't look like what people think about when they think about yoga teachers. And I hope that by you and I moving through the world, that we might shift the way that people think people who practice yoga look like, and that it might then become more accessible for people in a variety of bodies.
yeah, thank you for sharing compliment that.
Yeah. I wonder if you would tell us a bit about how your understanding of yourself and your identity has perhaps been shaped by your yoga practice.
I think it's a great question, great hard question. I think that my yoga practice at this point of my life shaped how I am in all aspects of my life. I don't think I don't think that I have any aspect of my life that my yoga practice didn't reach out that part of me. So when I think of myself as a federal government employee in Brazil, I see myself as someone who used that skill, I think, to work in that place and to translate between um, governance because I work for I how can I say it? I was there in many presidents that Brazil had. So I had to handle with different uh, challenge of being there, and depends to who I have to work with. So I think that flexibility is was something that my yoga practice helped me to build. And if I think in my spiritual life, I think totally uh, every day more related to yoga. If if I think in my personal relationship, my family, my friends, all of that is um, influenced by my yoga practice, and not only because the people knows that I am a yogi and relates to with me uh, as a yoga practitioner or yogi, something like that, but also because I use that skills that I learned with my yoga practice to I hope that's always improving my my relation with my work, the world especially. I started to think about political stuff because of my yoga practice, and to not be a yogi that are sitting waiting for something magical happen, to really uh, being there and be active in my work and using my physical body to promote something, the social justice and the changes that we want to see. All of that happened as I was working in my being, my inner being with yoga.
Thank you. There are a couple of threads that I'll pull on there. One that I heard was that you have worked in the government for a long time, and that meant that you have served under different presidents and across different administrations, which we know means that a lot of things change, right? And I loved the way that you named the flexibility that you establish through your practice, right? As a way that helps you navigate, those changes in your external world, right? The things that you don't have control over, right? We learn how to become more tolerant of discomfort and more flexible in the practice, right? And then we get to take that out into the world. So I appreciate.
I think.
Yeah.
Sorry. No, I'd say that you say something that is very special, that you be comfortable in the uncomfortable. You learn to navigate in the uncomfortable stuff. So I think that it's very magical.
Yes, I agree that yes. That like some of the magic of yoga is how it moves through us, right? Is that we practice and then we have this internal skill set and toolkit, right, that continues to grow and strengthen the more that we practice. Yes, I love that. And then we get more comfortable being uncomfortable. And you talked about how it has impacted your work, but also the way that your way of being in your practice also impacts your family and your relationships. And I really appreciate that, because I think that has been true of my own life as well, that I just have I will call that like sort of just a greater sense of my own center, right? And so I feel like I have better boundaries with other people, and I feel more like equipped to like manage challenges like internally and externally. So it's always fun for me to hear like how our lives are, like there's a ripple effect, right, of our practice in our lives. I also wanted to just highlight and echo what you said here about yoga being a place of support for us as we navigate political stuff, right? And specifically as we navigate movements for social justice and participating in advancing liberation for all people, right? That we have a place where we're grounded in our own practice so that we can move to be of service in the greater world. And I appreciated the way that you said, I'm not just sitting, right? I'm not just sitting and waiting for things to happen, which I appreciate as like the image, right, of like the yogi sort of sitting cross-legged on their mat, and how we do that so that we can go out in the world and do the other stuff. So I loved that. I'm wondering if you would want to tell us about the relationship between stretching and flexibility, and maybe a little bit more about the aspects of our life that might touch.
Yeah, sure. I think that working our physical body affects our whole being. And as you mentioned in my video, I think that physical body is an excellent teacher, for many reasons. Um, but mainly because it's a sender and a receiver of other constituent elements of our being. When we work in our physical body, in our flexibility, in our stretching, we are also work in our mental, emotional flexibility by reverberation. Uh, and at the same time, we somatize a lot of things that's happening in a more subtle realm or sphere, we bring that to our body. You know? When you're stressed, for example, we kind of can be a reaction in our body. So I think that have an intention in our body, we can not only see kind of see what's happening in our mind, in our emotion, but also when our when we are working in our bodies, we can prevent, to to collapse in other aspects of your life. So I think that uh, being there for our physical body, and we can go more, into that. We can think about your in the food that you put in your body. We can think about the way that not only the way that we dress, but the things that that our clothes are made of, and all of that have impact in our physical body and the way that we live, in the impact of the world that we live too.
Yeah, I love the invitations you made there about noticing all of the ways and things that the energetics of things, right? Is the way that I heard that, like the energetics of our food, the energetics of our clothing, the way that they impact the way our physical body um, integrates, right, in the world and like moves through the world. I also want to highlight what you said about the way our body, like we somatize a lot of things, right? Some of them consciously, right? But a lot of them like unconsciously, and the ways that energy moves through the body, right? And releases and is transformed when we move the physical body. Um, and what I love about yoga is that not all of that has to be conscious either, right? That
Yeah.
like some of it is just like it's not the same as like sitting in therapy and talking through a whole thing, right? It's very much just like your body is moving and things are happening. And there have been many times where I have been on my mat in particularly in more like restorative poses where like I'll just be moved to tears. And I like at first I felt really like, oh, I need to process this, right? Because that's the mind stuff, right? And the more I have sat with things and just let them sort of move, I'm like, I don't have to know all the magic that's happening for it to still be transformative. So I appreciated just that reminder that things are getting into the body and storing, right? And that they sort of need unpacking from time to time, and that the physical practice, is a way to do that.
And sometimes it's not even the tears happens. Sometimes you think that nothing special is really happening, but when you in front of some challenge, or not even challenge, you're doing like um your laundry, and you realize that something is different, and you just realize that you're not the same anymore, that something changes. You don't know why, you don't know when, you don't know what changed, but you feel that something moved, and you're not the same anymore. And for me, it's I love that part of yoga too, because it's the easy part, is that there's a lot of hard stuff in life and in yoga and in everything in the world. And I think that's the easy part. Like the blessing of uh, the practice of yoga.
I love that image that like there is an easy part and it's happening. Yes. Um, I know that you are both trained in Kundalini yoga and also practicing Ashtanga yoga. And I wonder if you would share with us some of the similarities and differences between those two practices, and then also specifically sort of what your relationship is to each.
Yeah. I started to practice Kundalini yoga. I never practiced any other yogas. I think my first contact with Kundalini yoga was I used to smoke when I was a teenager, and I was searching something how to stop smoking, and um, and a, a woman in white with a white turban appeared teaching some pranayama, some uh, respiration work, some breathing work to stop the smoke. So I didn't know what was she was what she was teaching at the moment, but it was the first my first contact with Kundalini yoga practice, and many years after that, I, I was already I was not smoking anymore for some years, thanks. But I did my first practice yoga in how can I say it? I forgot the I forgot the name in English, but I was in a retreat. It was not a yoga retreat, but it was like a spiritual practice retreat, and we start off the day doing some Kundalini yoga practice. So it was my second, but the first time doing something. And after that, I chatted a little bit with the teacher that was teaching the practice, leading the practice, and a few months after that, I started to do it regularly. I even I was practicing, I started to relate with that in a very intellectual way. So I started to read a lot of about Kundalini yoga and to know a lot about that. And after 2 years of practicing and studying, I decided to do a training to become a Kundalini yoga teacher. First, not thinking to really teach anything, but to go deep into the teachings and to it was something that was so special to me that I want to know more, to have more control, to to be more independent, on it, So, but it didn't have to go to the end of the training for me to start it to teach and and to go in that place that I saw myself and I realized myself as a Kundalini yoga teacher. So, but I also had a very strict relation to that. It was my first contact to yoga. I was really into Kundalini yoga, and in the pandemic, I started to practice Ashtanga Vinyasa yoga. And first, because I wanted to do something different, other uh, physical activities, not only Kundalini yoga. It was a place to have a relaxation too, because no Kundalini yoga was so much of me at that point that I want something different to play with, to have fun with that and to go back to the old times that the only thing that I have to do right now is practice, and I don't have to think a lot of that, and also teach me a lot to relate with my body. I Kundalini yoga has a lot of aspects on it. We do a lot of breathing work, we do a lot of mantra work, we do a lot of mudra work. We have a lot of aspects that in a Kundalini yoga class, in a Kundalini yoga practice. But in Ashtanga, I saw myself more into physical activity, into physical work, and I can say that I improved my physical practice, even Kundalini yoga, way more the 2 years that I'm doing Ashtanga than in the 10 years that I practice Kundalini yoga, because I have to focus on that while I was practicing Ashtanga. So it makes more focus and also makes me more flexible in my relation to the yoga and my also all my spiritual practice too.
There was a lot of juicy stuff in there. And so I want to go back to the beginning of that answer for a minute because I heard that, you know, you were smoking, you wanted to quit smoking, you saw a Kundalini yoga practitioner, teacher, right? And chose not to practice at that time, right? And I imagine that as like a seed of yoga being planted, right? Like, and then, you know, years later, you go to this retreat, you have the experience of practicing for a few days and a new seed, like another, or maybe we'll call it watering that seed, right? And then it takes a little bit more time for you to establish a regular practice. And I just am thinking about what a blessing it is when things find us before we're ready for them, right? But that they give us context for them, like when we are ready for them, right? That it's, yeah, I think planting seeds along the journey, right? So I appreciated just your share about how that unfolded because I think a lot of times it's like I have this idea that someone just started practicing and then suddenly were like their practice was so robust that they just started teaching and like right that really for many of us it unfolds over a period of time. And I appreciate and I hear this pretty frequently as well, the desire to do yoga teacher training, not so much to share the practice with others but to come to a better understanding of why the practice is working so well for us, right? And then from that integrated place choosing to share it. So thanks for sharing that part of your journey and for just giving me that space to reflect on it. The other piece that I heard is just that your relationship with Kundalini was very like specific, right? That it's a practice that has a lot of parts, right? There's the breathing and the mudra and the movement, and they are part of every practice, right? And the desire to do something more playful in a more flexible way, like something right that has a little bit less structure to it, was what drew you to Ashtanga. And you know, we were talking a little again before we started recording, and I appreciated the way that you had spoken about this sort of as a thing that informs both practices, right? That it feels more playful to be practicing Ashtanga, but also your physical practice with Ashtanga, then also reinvigorating your Kundalini practice as well. And I think that that's really lovely to have the experience of multiple yoga traditions, right? And find, you know, how they are similar and like how they increase the richness of each other. Made myself another note and I just want to make sure I didn't lose it. It's not coming back to me, so I must be complete on that thought. I would love to hear what your personal practice looks like in your day-to-day life and perhaps maybe how that has changed for you over time.
Yeah, I think that I am a very disciplined person. I am Taurus with Virgo rising, so I am very. I think that have a routine is something that makes me uh, sane in my life. So I since the beginning, I think after a few months of starting a regular class in Kundalini Yoga, I started to practice every day, and not. We used to practice in the beginning of the day, to prepare ourselves for the day, and it makes me total sense because I think that I have that need inside of me already that I have to. We have here in Bahia they say that I was born that to be with the soul inside of us, something like that is an expression that you we I always had the need to feel my soul inside of me after go to open the door of the room, to see people and to do stuff. So For me, the practice of yoga is that to put the soul, my soul inside of me, and so I can start the day. Today, I have a very specific practice. I used to do some mantras uh, when I after go take a shower and clean myself. I do some mantras and I do some Kundalini Yoga Kriya, which is um, depends in the time that I had. That that day I do uh, something bigger or something longer or something shorter. But I always do something that that brings movement to my body. And if I have time, I work from home, so it's easy for me to to do something between things during my day. I do some vinyasa Ashtanga yoga practice, and it's where I really stretch my body, where I really bring a strength to my body. It's not only to bring the soul inside of me, but also to really challenge my body. I don't use to challenge my body in the first practice that I have in the day a lot. Sometimes I do, but it's not the main goal of it. I prefer to do that, during the day or in the middle of the the morning or in the end of the evening, in the end of the day. So when I do something that I challenge my body, that I put more fire on that. So it's my personal practice right now. But I have a very special relationship to the Kundalini Yoga mantras, and it it's a really part of my spiritual yin yoga practice too.
Thanks for sharing with us, right, that the practice can look different at different times of the day. I really appreciate the internal focus, right, of mantra and the kriya like early on in the day. And I love this image that you have of like calling the soul back into the body, like that resonates for me. I have a sense of what that feels like. And also the different practices for different outcomes, right? So then later in the day, really wanting to charge up your energy and build some heat and fire, so that you can sort of use that momentum, right, to move through the rest of the day. So appreciate the distinction between like what yoga can do for us in different ways, right? That it's not always super physical and charging us up, right? Sometimes it really is regenerating and gathering our energy before we use it for the day. Yeah, I'm sitting still with the putting the soul inside the body. I like that a lot. Yeah, I think about something like, even I think about that as perhaps in my own mind now. I'm considering like, how will I use that in my own practice? And for me, some of that is also calling back the energy at the end of the day, right? Like that our outputs sometimes take us far from our own energy. You shared with me that, and we shared in your bio as well, that you think that the physical body is a great teacher. And I'd love to hear an example of either how that is unfolding in your own life, or perhaps how that's impacted a student when you're teaching.
Yeah, I think I have two good stories. I think I have a love hate story with the dog looking down. For sure, the down dog. We used to call that Ashtanga, but in men yoga practice, we call that down. I forgot the name. It's down. Can you say that? Can you
Yeah,
say the name?
downward facing dog.
Down facing dog. Yes. Thank you.
Yes.
So I have a lot of hate stories about facing dog. In Kundalini Yoga, you call that pose uh, triangle pose, and I think that posture is one of the most complete postures because it works in the whole body. We uh, we look in the upper part of the body, also stretch a lot of the down part of the body, and is a pose that the most of us have to conquer. It's not easy for us to take the pose uh, as it is, and it's not only because we have to conquer the correct alignment, or to put the cackles in the ground, um, but it's most of the challenge is to relax in the pose. It's the triangle pose, dog facing dog pose. It's relaxed pose. It's a pose of relaxation. It's a pose of recovery. If you see the name of the pose in Sanskrit, it has a shavasana in the end of the pose. It means like, it's to relax in that pose. And if you have that in mind when you see a Kundalini Yoga Kriya, or even a Vinyasa Ashtanga practice, you have that when you in that pose, you have the chance to recover. And for me, when I realized it was a long journey to 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 realize that in my body, not only my mind knows to know that, but realize that in my body to my body started to recover in that pose, and was after many years of practice, I was already a teacher, and I think I was also had started to do Ashtanga. So yeah, I think that it realized me that, oh, okay, and now I can understand what have the physical body as a teacher really means. And was I remember the feeling of realizing that when I started to put myself in recovery or relaxation when I am that pose. And other story that came to my mind, it was a student history, actually, and that student, she was a woman that started to practice Kundalini yoga, um, well past of the 60s, and after going through a traumatic event of losing uh, an adult son. At that time, she was very weak physically, emotionally, and energetically, and she couldn't even uh, see it still. She was so shortened that she was not able to be seated in to do his uh, yoga movements or yoga asanas. And while she was practicing yoga, she started to process some of the pain and went through the grief, and her body also became more flexible, you know, when she started to process all of that. And um, today she's almost 8 years old, and she's a medalist in swimming, a sport that she started to do after uh, started to practice Kundalini yoga, and it's also it's a story that uh, always comes to my mind when I think that relationship between physical body and other subtle bodies of ourselves. And also that while we are practicing, we don't realize that at the time we are always we are also processing some of our history, and it all as we conquer things in our body, we also conquer things in other parts of ourselves.
I love these two stories and the pairing of them because in your first story there, right, with your experience of practicing this pose consistently over time, right, your relationship to it shifts and you realize like, oh, I've moved into the ease and relaxation that is in the name of this pose, right? I really appreciated the way that one sort of went from a physical to an emotional response. And then how in your second story, right, we're starting with an emotional response, where your student is grieving the loss of her adult son, right, and is in a place where that has taken a lot of her energy. And then she uses the practice to process through that, right, and develops a strength in the physical body. And then did I hear you say that she's now a swimmer? She's like,
Yeah,
yeah, she's like earning medals for swimming. Yeah. So I think that that's just a really like, right, they're sort of going in both directions, like from the physical body to the emotional and from the emotional to the physical strength. Um, and I love this, right, because it's not it's never like linear, and we're not having the same exact experience of the practice, right? Everyone's living them in different bodies and in different emotional landscapes and things, but the transformation that's happening is still there's like an alchemy that's happening no matter what, right? And I love the way you said it, we're always sort of processing some of our history, right, as we're moving through the practices. I think is that the way you said it? I'm trying to remember exactly. Yeah, processing through
yeah,
some of our history. Um, and what I love about this story with your student is that we're also we're moving some of our history into our future, right? In that transformational way. So I loved both of those stories, and I appreciate you sharing them with us. Um, I wonder if you want to say anything further about sort of who influences your understanding of this idea of stretching and your relationship with your yoga practice.
yeah. I since of the beginning of my journey with yoga, I always had a great friend. She was when I was in my teacher training. She was studying her position in the academy in the Kundalini Research Institute. So I think that my training was the first one. She was, as a trainer in that moment. Um, she was also a physical therapist and energy therapist too in several fronts. And I think that having her around has always been a source of encouragement to think a lot about flexibility and the relation between physical body and our other bodies, our emotional body, our energetic body, our mental body. And and I think that he was a source for not only if I had adapt about something, related to the yoga practice, but also because she already had the that in her, inside of her, that physical body is as important as any other body in another way, because I think that we usually relate to physical body in two ways. Like we have that in a temple, it's the most important thing in the world, or we have it's for weak people, for mundane people. We are already uh, we don't think about that anymore. We only think about our spiritual bodies and our physical bodies, and none of them make sense to me. And I think that having this person um, was the first glimpse that I had that. Oh, we can do it like in the middle term of it. Like we can have a spiritual practice and still have a relationship with your physical body. We can go through a spiritual journey using our physical body. We can take care of ourselves, taking care of your physical body, and having her. I think she is she is still in the academy. I still work with her. Um, we talk a lot. We always talking about many stuff, including uh, ways to to go through physical things, and to to be aware of that. And yeah, it's nice to have her. I had a conversation with her when I was invited to lead stretching model, and so I can think about uh, uh, what can I bring to that class, and she was always a great thought.
Thank you for that. I really can sense your reverence and appreciation of her, both as a mentor and a friend. And I wonder if you would like to name her so that we.
Okay, sorry.
No, it's.
Sat Anand Kaur.
Thank
Her
you. I
name.
think it's powerful to, call the people into our space. So thank you for that. Um, what I heard there that I thought was really was a thing that I have navigated in my own life is this idea about elevating the spiritual practice, right, above the physical body, or people privileging the physical body, right, over the spiritual practice, and how um, she's really helped you to feel centered in the physical body as a place of the spiritual practice. Did I understand that correctly?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I'm gonna sit and let that one sink in too, because it is the sort of dichotomy that you described. I think I have really experienced in a lot of spaces about the relationship between the body and the spirit and which one should be privileged. And I love this idea that they're all they're happening at the same time, right? And yeah. So I am close to my closing question here, and I am wondering if you have anything else that is on your mind or your heart right now that you want to make sure that we share.
I think we share
Yeah.
everything that we had to.
Yeah.
I'm not feeling the need to share anything specific. Thank
Perfect.
you for asking.
Yeah, absolutely. So then my closing question is, what is your vision for a radical life?
I think that radicality is in the simple thing. I think there's nothing more radical than go simple. And I think the most simple thing to do is be yourself. And it takes a lot of energy, it takes a lot of courage to to be yourself, So there's no other thing more radical just other than be yourself and to live them. We have to disappoint a lot of things, a lot of people to be yourself. It's not easy. So when you live our true selves, our true life, it's it's always simple and always radical.
I love also the pairing of radical and life here, right? And where you're talking about it being living into your true self, because I do think that that is the work of a lifetime, right? That it is constantly unfolding for us and that we get closer and closer to it with our practice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank
You
you so
have to do
much.
you have to do it every day. That's why it's a lifetime work. We
Yeah.
have to choose that every time we put our soul inside of self in the beginning of the day, have to make that choice. Today I will live my true self, my true life, and I will act it as I really want to act, not someone's expectation.
I love the way that you just named that as a daily choice, right? As an opportunity for us to step into each day. Yeah. Oh, thank you so much for spending this time with me today. It really has been a treat to speak with you and to hear about your journey. And I'm so excited to bring your stretch module, to the world in our radical life. And it was really sweet to hear you name that your mentor and teacher also was someone that you got to take that to and uh, yeah, and share that with each other as you bring it to us. So thank you for all of that.
Thanks so much, Nancy, to have me here in my first podcast interview. It was a super fun experience too. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining us. Head over to our website at radical.life to sign up for your free Radical Life Starter Kit. Our website is radikal.life. The Radical Life podcast is produced by me, Marina Patrice Vare, and edited by Cassidy Vare. Our theme music was created by Mark MeeZy. Radical Life is a co-creation with Manjot Singh Khalsa and Radical Healing. Connect with us on social media, Radical with a K. We're on Instagram at radical_life_22 and Facebook at Radical Life.